Welcome, everybody, to TalentED, where we share stories and insights from professionals making a difference in their fields. Today, we have special guest Dave Schmittou, who will discuss a topic, and I'm going to let him introduce his topic because that's his passion area, and share some experiences and insights with us. So, welcome, Dave, and thanks for coming on with us today.
No, absolutely. And Eric, I appreciate how you got my name correct there. Schmittou, I've heard Schmittou, Skitchimoto, Shimitu. When I was a classroom teacher, I heard a lot of students pronounce my name without the M in the middle. So, there's a lot of different variations to how you can say my name, but there's only one that I consider to be the standard way to say my name. Since you know the topic we're going to be talking about today. There you go. Since you know the topic we're talking about today, that's my little segue into say, I'm excited to talk standards-based grading because that is a passion area of mine, making things as standard as possible.
Well, and it's not an easy topic. I mean, it's easy to say standard-based grading, unlike Schmittou, but standard-based grading, yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your location, and a little bit about why standard-based grading.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dave Schmittou again. Right now, I am going into year 25 of my professional education journey. In that time, I've had the opportunity to literally do every job you can imagine in the K-20 space, really. I started off as a middle school classroom teacher, then transitioned through building leadership from athletic director, dean of students, assistant principal, principal at all three levels, was an assistant superintendent and a full college professor. And then a couple of years ago, decided that it was just too exhausting to try to do all the things all the time. So I made a little pivot. I spent the bulk of my career in the state of Michigan. But when I made this pivot, decided that I no longer needed to brave the cold every single day, 12 months out of the year. So I now live in Pensacola, Florida, right on the beach, where a lot of people from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Ohio, Indiana come down and visit me during their spring breaks and summertime, and just try to make things as cozy for them as possible. My full-time job now is literally working with schools. I get to travel all over the place and work with schools and long-term projects, assessment, and specifically standards-based grading and some leadership development work as well.
Great. Well, thanks for that introduction. So let's get right into it. Let's get right into standard-based grading.
Let's do it.
And as you know, when you talk about standard-based grading, first question I have for you is really how can standard-based grading improve student learning compared to traditional grading systems? And we're all used to a wide variety of grading, right? And sometimes it's very much a mystery of like, how did I get graded? And I'm sure we could share some really horrific stories of how people get points in class, like, wearing the school spirit or, on a Friday, or one of the ones I love is you didn't use your bathroom pass all semester, so you get an extra 10 points. And those are real stories. Yeah. Those are real stories.
For sure. Yeah, and if we had more time together, if we had more time together, I could share a couple of hours worth of those sorts of fun stories. And they are quote unquote the horror stories. But oftentimes those are that's the hyperbole of it, where there are classroom teachers that don't necessarily do that aren't passing out the extra credit passes, that aren't passing out the bathroom passes, that can look at us and say, why do I need to change? Because I don't do those crazy things. I give kids grades for what they quote unquote earn. I don't even pass out points to kids. The kids earn their grades, and I just report that out on a report card, which I understand. But the reality is, we know from research, we know from practice, that timely and specific feedback is in the top 5 of all impacts and all effects of things that drive student performance and student improvement, student growth. Right. Standards-based grading has absolutely nothing to do with changing a report card. It has absolutely nothing to do with changing the arbitrary symbols on a page. I tell people, I don't care if you use 1, 2, 3s or ABCs. The Jackson 5 kind of already got that, ABC 1, 2, 3. It has nothing to do. You can use fist bumps and smiley faces. I don't care about the arbitrary symbols that you use on the page. What I care about is that you're being specific and that you're being timely, that you are telling students exactly how to make progress. I am also a big believer that it's okay to have behaviors worked into grades. If that is the thing that's going to stop you from moving forward, as you say, kids have to earn their grades and they have to jump through my hoops, go for it. But I want you to disaggregate that. I want you to pull that out so that it's specific, so that kids know how to improve their grades, whether it's because they don't have mastery of content or is it because they're not jumping through your hoops. Make sure the parents, make sure the students, make sure all stakeholders know how to improve and give specific and measurable progress updates.
Because in the end, at the end of this logic model, Dave, we want kids to learn, right?
That's it. Well, we want kids to grow, period.
Yeah, grow.
And everybody is somewhere on their growth trajectory. It's our responsibility to figure out where they are and how to move them forward. And the only way to do that is by being specific and not arbitrary, not just grading kids with a big broad brush and using points and percentages and percentages. I mean, we could go way into the weeds in this and talk all the intricacies, but it's all about giving specific and timely feedback. That's what it boils down to.
Great. So I think this is actually a great next question. So what are some common misconceptions about standard-based grading? Because there is pushback, right? There is pushback, which is crazy to think about, but there is pushback saying, no, we don't want to do that. We can't do that.
Yeah, well, let me just give you, let me give you some stats here real quick. So last year, I was on the road 120 days. Okay. I was busy and doing a lot of work. 100 of those days were supporting schools with standards-based grading. 80 of those 100 days were supporting schools that started some sort of standards-based grading journey on their own 3, 4, 5 years ago. And then they said, oh, it's not working. We need somebody else to come in and help support us. Yeah. And the thing that wasn't working is that they started with, we need to fix our report card. I'm going to tell you again, trying to fix a report card is never a reason to change instruction in a classroom. One of the misconceptions that happen, again, I addressed this earlier, is it has nothing to do with the arbitrary symbols you use.
Sure.
When you enter into a standards-based grading environment, you are truly changing every single piece of your pedagogy and your instruction, because you're having conversations about retakes and redos, and it's not about how many times can a kid try something. It's making sure that you understand that kids learn at different times in different ways. It's about differentiated instruction. It's about having multiple assessment types. It's about eliminating arbitrary deadlines. There's so many things that get opened up, and it truly is Pandora's box that gets opened up. And it's important that schools recognize that when you start talking standards-based grading, you're not just talking about report cards. You could have an effective standards-based grading environment, never once change report cards, still have A, B's, and C's, or 1, 2, 3s, because it's about the instruction that matters. It's every single piece of your pedagogy that gets explored.
I think that part is often missed, right? Because you're exactly right. Is that a lot of people will start, or a lot of schools will start with, this report card doesn't work. We're going to go to a standard-based report card. Well, they make that decision, and then all of a sudden they have to go back. And the why doesn't happen to be there at that point, does it?
Right. And that's another major piece of it. A Schmittouism, if you will, is I'm a big believer that if you get people to weigh in, you don't have to work so hard to get buy-in, right? And this idea of standards-based anything often trickles down from the top. Somebody went to a conference, somebody heard a speaker, somebody read a book and said, oh, we have to change this. And they throw it out at teachers and say, we have to change the way we grade kids. And well, teachers, we know this, crave autonomy. They crave their independence. They know that they are the experts of their kids. We tell teachers, you know your kids better than anybody else. And now they have somebody that wears a fancy suit and polished shoes and goes to the dry cleaner twice a week coming in and telling them, now we need to change the way that you are giving feedback to kids. And that it can feel like you're creating new barriers between kids and teachers. It feels like you're stripping away autonomy from teachers. So you've got to get the teachers, you got to get everybody that's involved in this process weighing into how it's going to look and how it's going to feel. Although a standard's only standard if it's standard, there's no standard way to do standards-based grading. It's up to each school and each system to figure out how it looks.
So speaking of teachers, let's come back to the idea of teachers in this, because they're an integral part of making this change, right? Like, we need their buy-in. They have to be there. How can we ensure that how can teachers ensure that their assessment actually measure student progress against learning standards? And how can
that's a good one.
Is there technology that can help support that? Maybe.
Well, yes, there is technology that can support that. However, I'm going to put that on the table for now, because I believe that at times we bring in technology to, in our minds, help support teachers, and all we do is diminish the role of a teacher. Teachers, we say, are the single greatest influence and impact on a kid's life, and yet we keep bringing things in to try to supplement what teachers can do, right? So let me put that to the side for a second. What is something that teachers can do to help align their assessments? Number one, we can recognize the single greatest driver of student learning is collective efficacy. Collective teacher efficacy matters more than absolutely anything else. And collective teacher efficacy does not mean the same thing as that dirty F word that we use in school. It's not the same thing as fidelity. It doesn't mean, it does not mean every teacher doing the same thing the same day, giving the same test on Friday so that we can use those results to compare each other and say who's a better teacher and who's a worse teacher. That is not what collective efficacy means. Collective efficacy means we are sitting around making decisions together that we think matters more. Like, for example, I'm a father of 4 kids. I want my kids to grow up and be self-efficacious. I want them to figure things out on their own. I want them to figure out how to change their tire. I want them to figure out how to pack their own lunch, tie their own shoes. With collective teacher efficacy, we want teachers to be able to make the decisions that matter most. And we want them to do it collectively. The way that teachers can make sure that our assessments are aligned is to have some collective decision-making. You need to triangulate your assessments. You need to make sure that your assessments have inter-rater reliability, that teachers are looking at assessments saying, does this really measure what we say it's going to measure? Not so that we can say you're a better teacher than me, but so that we can truly say, are kids moving as quickly as they should? Are they moving, gaining things with mastery like they should? If not, what can we do about it? Again, not to sort and select teachers into good, bad, or ugly categories like we've been doing, but simply so that we can learn collectively and move kids forward.
Dave, I will tell you, I was just working on my daughter's efficacy this weekend when she just got a new license, just turned 16.
Okay. Oh.
She was running out of gas. She claimed she did not know how to put gas to fill up the car. I assured her that she did have the skills to do this. So we had to go through it. So now she has the efficacy to make those decisions for herself when to fill it up.
Right. And it's interesting. You talk about like a 16-year-old daughter. She might have truly thought she didn't have those skills, but in reality, you knew that she did. And it's easy and it's tempting to say, okay, I will just help you. I will do it for you right now. And the same thing happens in our schools with leadership and teachers and students all the way down. If we want to build efficacy, though, we have to get out of the way and say, you've got the power to make the decisions.
I did make her do it by herself. I sat in the car.
Good for you.
I wish she had her own credit card that was filling up the car, but she did use mine. So.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, Dave, these are really great questions, and you are a great resource, and not only in standard-based grading, but also leadership development, and just have a great experience through a variety of levels. And that's why I'm so excited to kind of introduce you to Minnesota and really everywhere. So can you tell us just one more thing about standard-based grading? Why is this important right now?
It's important for the same reasons that leadership is important and decision-making is important. It's important because it's, number one, we can't do it all, right? In this, let's just talk standards-based grading specifically before I start talking leadership and some of these other components. There's this temptation to feel like we're supposed to do all things at all times, that we're supposed to, quote unquote, cover every single standard and get kids to master everything. And it's impossible. Just to throw a statistic at you, there are 256 standards for a kid to master in 6th grade. If we just talk about the 4 core areas of math, science, social science, and language arts. 256 in a school year of 180 days equates to we're expecting a kid to master a standard every 0.7 days. I've never mastered anything in my life in less than a day, let alone less than a year, right?
That's a great point.
When we talk standards-based grading, we're not saying kids are going to master everything. We have to be strategic and specific about which standards we're measuring, which standards we're looking for mastery on. So it starts with making those strategic decisions as to which ones are your priorities, which ones are the essentials, and lots of protocols I can use to talk about leverage, endurance, and depth. But it's the same thing that leaders have to focus on. Every year, there's 1,000 initiatives we want to try to throw into our schools. We can't throw them all in, even though they're all good. We have to be strategic and figure out which ones to focus on, that we can measure them and be targeted and specific. It's all the same principles, just with different audiences.
Do you have what did you call it? A Schmittouism for us around grading?
A Schmittouism around grading? Yeah, well, again, a standard is only standard if it's standard, which is number one. And I know that standards, we've got standards that come to us from the state, but we don't treat them in standard ways. We all see them and interpret them in different ways. For example, I'll use the biggest one today, citing textual evidence, right? Citing textual evidence has become the new volcanoes, dinosaurs of the standards-based movement, because every single teacher is teaching citing textual evidence. Citing textual evidence, though, first enters the standards in 2nd grade, and it continues every year until 11th grade with nuances in depth every single year. But what's happening in a lot of classrooms from 9th and 10th grade all the way down to 2nd grade is we're teaching it the same way. Just tell me your source. Just tell me your source. Who said it? Where'd you find it? but that's not what the standard says.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get to the place where we are truly seeing the standard for the standard and making the standard standard.
I love it. Okay, I promised you a lightning round. Are you ready for lightning round?
I have no idea. Let's find out.
All right. We're going to switch gears, do a little bit of lightning round. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you just have to choose one or the other. First one I think is really important. Wolverines or Spartans? Michigan or Michigan State?
All right. So I'm going to hedge it here. So I'm a Chippewa. I went to Central Michigan. I taught at Central Michigan. So I'm going to say Chippewas. Football season, though, I'm all Wolverines. Basketball, I'm all Spartans. So yeah, I'm kind of a
that's so
fair weather
easy.
fan.
That's a
right. I told you.
That's a cop
yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm definitely not a gopher. I'll give you that,
Dave. I'll work on that.
All right.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Beach or mountains? I think I know this one.
I live in Florida, so yeah, let's go with the beach.
Coffee or tea?
Goes coffee all day.
Early bird, night owl.
Oh, I'm up at about 3:30 every morning.
Coffee or drama? Comedy or drama?
Let's go comedy. Absolutely.
Winter or summer?
Summer. 365.
If you were put on the spot, are you going to sing or are you going to dance?
They're both going to be an epic failure. Since I said comedy, I guess I would go with sing. I'm more inclined to do some karaoke than I am to get up and break dance. So
okay, all right. Books or movies?
Books.
We're gonna pause because I need you to tell the stat right now.
Okay.
The book stat. How many? What's your goal?
So my goal is to read 750 books. And when I say books, I'm not talking like Dr. Seuss and Dick and Jane books. I'm talking like, if you can see behind me, this is my bookshelf. It goes all the way around the room. And I believe I'm at 482 right now. So still got a ways to go. Lots of learning still to do in my life.
That's a setup. Fiction or nonfiction?
Ooh, nonfiction. Yeah.
Fiction. Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Netflix or Hulu?
Okay, can we go back? Hold on. I said sweet really quick. I don't even know the difference. What is savory?
I think savory is that a little bit more salty-ish? Like,
I have no idea. I'm gonna stay with sweet because I don't know I don't know the difference. So let's go sweet.
Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Rain or sunshine?
Sunshine.
Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram.
Sneakers or sandals?
I'm a runner, so I'm gonna go sneakers.
This one is a very clear line in the sand. Pizza topping, pineapple, no pineapple.
I'm not gonna hate you for throwing some pineapple on my pizza, but I'm not gonna order it with pineapple on it.
All right, pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Ice cream or cake?
Ice cream. I'm not a cake eater.
Not a cake eater. Is that a Schmittouism?
No.
I'm not a cake eater.
No. Well, hey, I'll add that to my hashtag and see what happens. Yeah.
Well, now we know a little bit more about Dave and kind of the value that he can bring to your organization, your work. School Pro highly recommends that you get in contact with us or Dave to get some of this work done in your schools. I think he's a valuable resource and can't wait to see kind of where this goes and how you can help schools in Minnesota.
I'm looking forward to it.
So before we go, do you have a call to action for our listeners today?
Yeah, I guess it would just be figure out your priorities, right? I actually just threw out a blog recently dealing with the Eisenhower matrix. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, which basically talks about wrestling with importance and urgency. Not everything's important. Not everything is urgent. You've got to find those things that are in that sweet spot that fall in line between both. Don't feel the need to do all things minimally. Find the things that you can maximize on and that you can go all in on. So as you're thinking about the next school year or the next month or whatever is coming next, weigh how important is it and how urgent is it. This goes for when you're grading kids and you're trying to figure out what's the most essential thing. What thing do I need to spend my time on? Which things need to find their way into the grade book? If you're a leader, think about what initiatives do I need to bring to my staff? Focus on important and urgent, not one or the other.
How long before you release the Schmittou matrix?
Oh, I've got my own Schmittou matrix out there. It's just a matter of hit and publish. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Well, Dave, thanks for being with us today, and we hope you have enjoyed listening to Dave and everything that he has to offer. And if you have any future suggestions, please let us know in the comments about future guests, future topics that you want to hear from. So until next time, we're going to say keep learning, keep growing, and go Gophers. All right. Bye, everybody.